I want to discuss a principle inyan in the life of a Yidden as it is expressed in the practical life in Torah mitzvahs. The question or perhaps the possible misconception that I want to discuss is, it would seem that we have Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs are obligatory actions, mode of life that we have. This obligation falls on each individual. And if he does the right thing, then he's a good boy. And if he does the wrong thing, then something is not good. And then essentially, even from the perspective of Torah mitzvahs, the focus seems to be on the individual person. Is he a good person? Is doing the right thing? Or is he failing, is not doing the right thing? This is entirely understandable, because, as a matter of fact, what is the focus in the world outside? What type of person am I? There's a famous quote from our illustrious mayor, "How am I doing?" Anybody remember that? No. In this orientation, essentially, one can feel himself and can understand his position. He can actually relate to himself in isolation. In other words, it's up to me what I become, what I do with myself. Am I a good person or am I not a good person? The only thing that gives it some flavor and gives it some color and makes it a little bit palatable, makes it a little more interesting, and has a source of joy, is that some of the things that I'm required to do are things quite challenging, and it engages my thought, my brain, and if I go through the challenge, I feel good about myself. But in terms of what it is that I'm doing, what am I involved in? It seems to be I'm essentially involved with myself. This orientation is clearly, as we will see, not the Torah orientation at all. But, as we also know, it's quite prevalent, because this is in fact the individual orientation in the general world. Each person lives in his own little circle, in his own, what's called daladamas, in his own 4 cubits, his own space. And the more beautiful he makes this space, the more proud he is of it. And this is his source of happiness, his source of accomplishment. Look, I've made my space nicer than the space of the next guy. And on top of it, the strength to face the challenges. Where does that come from? In the world, everyone proudly says, I am my own man. What's the expression? I'm self-made. The strength essentially comes from himself. However that is to be understood, not going into this. The most important point that exposes this shortcoming, the shortcoming of this, besides that it's totally untrue, is that each one remains in a lonesome isolation. He lives in his own little world. He tells himself he's got company, he's got friends, but essentially, even when he's in company and with friends, he actually lives in his own mind. The company and friends gives him a chance to prove who he is and what he is able to do, who says a better joke. The Torah, a teaching, and the meaning of Torah mitzvahs in general, have an entirely different base. It is true that Hashem commanded us to do mitzvahs. And it is also true that the Torah says if you do mitzvahs, you get rewarded. If Hashem you don't, then there could be negative consequences. But then there's an interesting thing. The Gemara says that when one learns Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu koire v'shoina k'negdoi. When a Yid learns Torah, Hashem sits and learns with him. We'll have to discuss this. What does this mean? The Gemara says that when a Yid puts on tefillin, Hashem is putting on tefillin. Every mitzvah that he does, Hashem is doing it with him. Shabbos, what is Shabbos? Hashem gave us a day of rest. Hashem did not give us a day of rest as it's commonly translated. Hashem gave us His day of rest. He says, I rested on this day and you rest with me. By Avraham Avinu, The first mitzvah that Avraham Avinu was Mekayim as a commended mitzvah was the mitzvah of Milah. So it says that when Avraham Avinu was going to mal himself, he didn't have the strength to do it. Hashem held on to his hand and did it with him. What does all this mean? What does it mean Hashem is learning? What does it mean Hashem puts on tefillin? When Hashem took Yidden out of Mitzrayim, and as we discussed one time before, that this was very meticulously planned, that he should go through the Mitzrayim, and then they will be taken out of Mitzrayim, and being taken out of Mitzrayim and brought to Hashem. From that state, it will be possible for Yidden to become exclusively Hashem's nation. This Indian that will become an exclusively Hashem's nation does not only mean that Yidden do not have anything else of their own, but they're dedicated to Hashem. But it also means, more importantly, that they actually represent Hashem's presence in the world. By Pinchas, when there was this story of the after Bilam, you know, the story of Bnei Midian, and Pinchas did this deed. Pinchas went to Mesiras Nefesh, and in Mekano es Kinosi. So over there it says, Mekano es Kinosi, that he has avenged my avengement. Now this which I should have done, he did for me. This is true regarding everything that he does. There is a great, beautiful world. This great, beautiful world is not just there because naturally when the sun shines, things become beautiful. There's a great, beautiful world because it is representative of a great creator. And it is also representative of a great creator of what he wanted out of his creation. What Hashem wants out of his creation is that this creation should be a Gan Eden. Although there was a lot of dark moments in the world, but essentially the world was made to be a Gan Eden. This great, beautiful world is not there meaninglessly. Just there because it's there. Like we discussed in previous times, and we said, what is a fruit? What does a fruit mean when you approach it from a physical perspective? From a physical perspective, a fruit is nothing more than a protective shield to the seed. What does the fruit mean in the true sense, in the created world, in God's world? A fruit is food that Hashem prepared for the human being. As we've discussed, that the first 6 days of creation, the world still was disoriented. What is this all about? When Adam and Isha was created and Hashem said, this world is given over to you, it's for you, then it acquired a form, it acquired a sense, a meaning. And thus, Adam, which means the human being in general, but specifically the Jewish people, the Yidden, they relate, their orientation in the world is that the world is made to support, the world is made to support them. And that their job is to beautify this world and make it a Gan Eden. And where do they get the strength to do that? The strength they get from the Creator Himself. Because they are doing, they're doing His, what He wants, His duty. Hashem is finishing, the finishing touches in the creation through the Jewish people. This is the pshat in the pasuk. Asher bora Elokim la'asos. What is that? Asher bora Elokim la'asos. We always say it every Shabbos. That Hashem created la'asos, to do. What does it mean to do? To do means to complete. And who completes it? The Jewish people complete it. Coming from this orientation, with this approach, when one reflects what his place in the world is, he no longer seeks to know who am I, how am I doing. It's not based on me. It is what arena, what koiches, what blessing did Hashem bestow upon me, so that I can fulfill His mission. And I recognize that I'm living in the whole world, in Hashem's world. Not totally, the whole concept of isolation is totally doesn't exist. Because as a matter of fact, I'm not living in my own space. I'm living in the general space of the entire creation. And every little thing that I do is to benefit the entire creation, ultimately. The Rebbe once explained that episode with Yosef HaTzadik. When Yosef came one morning to visit the prisoners that he was serving, they were the ministers of Pari, and he saw that they were sour-faced. Everybody knows what I'm referring to. So he asked them, why do you feel so sad this morning? And then when they responded to him, And he said, perhaps I can help you. So the Rebbe asked an obvious question. These were ministers of the king's palace. He was a little servant boy assigned to serve them. How does he come even to ask them what's bothering you? It's quite an audacious approach. Hey, my friend, what's bothering you? These are big ministers of power. Huh? You can hear me? Shall I repeat anything?
No, I heard it.
So, the Rebbe explains that this, in fact, is the stance that every Yid is supposed to have. Every Yid has inherently, not everyone is aware of it, but this is in fact the place that every Yid is in the world. The field of each one of us, the field of activity, the field of duty, the field of relationship, of concern, is not limited. Wherever I am, wherever I am, it's all Hashem's world. And therefore I am there, Hashem's emissary, to do what needs to be done in this place, what I can do. And when Yosef came and he saw the ministers of Paray were sour-faced, he immediately says, well, that's my duty. If they won't answer me, they won't answer. But I have to do mine. I know perhaps I can help them. And if I can, I certainly should try. It's my duty. It wasn't done out of haughtiness, out of self-righteousness. Yosef was a servant boy in the dungeon, thrown in there for life. But Yosef didn't lose himself. This is one of the most clearest messages from the story of Yosef. That whatever Yosef was, he was the very same Yosef. He never lost himself. He was the primary manager in Potiphar's house. He was Yosef. He was thrown into the dungeon. He was Yosef. He became king. He was Yosef. He was always the same. How is it possible? Because he did not live limited to his own place, to his own orientation, to his own skin. He always lived in the entire universe, because the entire universe is given to him as a duty. And this is what Yosef said to them. When Yosef asked them, what's bothering you? They said to him, we had a dream and we can't interpret it. Or there is no one here to interpret it for us. What did Yosef say? Yosef said, interpretations are in the hands of God. Who knows? In the hands of God. Tell me. Maybe God will send the interpretation through me. This is a principle in our lives. If I have to do a job, and there's a challenging job, and the question is, can I do it? It's a faulty question. The question is not, can I do it? The question is, can Hashem do it through me? That's the question. If I'm ready and I feel relating, and I'm ready to accept my mission, and I relate to Hashem, I say, well, that's what I have to do. That's what I'm going to do. And therefore Hashem will have to do it through me. Can Hashem do it through me? The answer is always, of course. And therefore I go to it, and I go and do it. How am I undertaking to do it? On what basis? On the basis that I am in Hashem's world, and that I represent, and Hashem is the one who is getting this thing done. The Gemara says, as mentioned before, that when you sit and learn Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu koyre v'shoyne knoide, Hashem sits and learns the same Gemara, the same Chumash that we learn. What does that mean? When I learn, there are two things that are taking place. One is that I'm learning for myself, so that I will acquire knowledge. I'll broaden my orientation, my understanding. But there is another and much more important, more significant activity there. That when I learn Torah, I am then showing or bringing down the Torah into human understanding, into the world. You would think, what's the point of learning Torah? How deeply will I understand it? There are such great scholars, and we have thousands of years of giants who have explored every aspect, every pathway of Torah. Much deeper than I ever will be able to even to touch. So why am I accomplishing my learning? If I learn how to wash negel wasser, at least I'm learning what I'm supposed to do. But if I learn involved in Yonim, in Gemara, in Chassidus, what's significance of that? The significance of that is that Ayid is sitting and learning Torah in this world. And when Ayid sits and learns Torah in this world, he is actually illuminating and purifying the world, thereby also purifying himself. How does this happen? Because when he learns, Hashem learns with him. Hashem learns, brings the Torah down into the world through him. So if I don't understand it fully, Hashem understands it fully. There's an interesting reference that is used. When you go to a university, what is the expression that you usually use? I'm going to study. When you go to yeshiva, What's the expression?
I'm going to learn.
I'm going to learn. What's the difference? The difference is study means I'm going to judge and see what I can understand of it. And only that which I can understand of it and know of it, only that is valuable. That which I did not understand, nothing happened. Didn't accomplish anything. Learn means that I sit and learn. And if I learn it the first time and I don't understand it, does that mean I didn't learn? No, I learned. But I didn't yet understand it. I go back a second time and I learn it again. And maybe eventually I'll understand it. But even the effort of learning is also called learning. That's what learning means. This is the meaning of a mitzvah. This meaning of a mitzvah translates itself further into every aspect of Jewish life, even in the most mundane and simple things. What this means is as follows. Many of the things that I'm mentioning have been already discussed at greater length before, so I can just, so to speak, cull from them. When you eat an apple, when the world eats an apple, when lahabla, a dog eats an apple, or a goy eats an apple, what does it mean? He eats a physical apple. He eats that which he drew from the tree without the permission of the tree, but because that the tree cannot resist him, so therefore he is able to get it and he eats it. When I eat, it's an apple. It's an apple that Hashem prepared for him and gave it to him and said, eat it. Even if he eats the apple just because it's tasty, he'd like to eat an apple. Still, it's a different eating. His partnership, his relationship with Hashem is constant. And his ability to act, his very ability to act, his very ability to breathe, is in partnership with the presence of Hashem. Coming from this background and having this understanding, we then are able to relate and to appreciate the beauty of the world and the grandeur, so to speak, of Hashem's creation in a totally different way. We all know that Chassidim, one of the hallmarks of a Chassid is that he is besimcha. He is merry, he is freilich. What's the simcha of a Chassid? Is the simcha of a Chassid because he enjoyed the little mashkin, the whiskey that he drank? Or is the simcha of a Chassid because he is happy with himself? What is the significance that a Chassid is besimcha? Just to give you a little background to understand the Sini. A Chassid is besimcha under all circumstances. Chassidim were besimcha under the most trying moments. It took nothing. If Chassidim could hide themselves from the KGB and kind of stow themselves away someplace in a hidden corner and sing a nigun, in no time they come to simcha. They come to simcha. Even though they're sitting there and fearing for their lives. What's the simcha? Where does it come from? How is it possible? We have to understand it. The answer is that their simcha is not of their experience. They're not joyous for who they are and what I have accomplished. It is not that I have now concluded a good deal. Their simcha is representative of the simple truth that Hashem is always besimcha. And Hashem's world is always beautiful. The fact that superficially that beauty is marred and misused doesn't change it. I may have mentioned to you something that always stands out in my mind. I can't mention it enough times. That the Frierdiker Rebbe, previous Rebbe, he was in Warsaw during the bombardment of Warsaw. He was in Warsaw when Warsaw was being bombarded during the Second World War. Bombardment of Warsaw by the Germans. And he describes in his diary various episodes that transpired, that he lived through on that time, that he had observed. And one moment he writes like this, that the house across the street from where the Rebbe was had a direct hit from above. And therefore everyone in his house, on this other side of the street, realized that this place is no longer safe. Everyone ran out of the house. They ran out of the house, and they were standing there on the sidewalk in front of the house, totally disoriented. Could not make a decision to go right, to go left. And the Rebbe describes this, this one says, let's go this way, and this way. And the house across the street is a flame. And then in the middle, the Rebbe inserts a few words. The Rebbe says, it was rather a beautiful sunny day. As he's describing the destruction and the disorientation, the craziness, he had in mind And he noted in his diary, he felt that it was rather a beautiful sunny day. What does that mean? The Rebbe was dreaming of playing baseball in this beautiful sunny day. What does it mean? It's rather a beautiful sunny day. That all the craziness that was going on, the destruction that was going on, and the danger, the imminent danger in which he was found himself, did not confuse, did not mar his ultimate view that really it's a beautiful place. The fact that some people don't understand and they see dark doesn't mean that it's dark. It's really beautiful in the sun. And that's the world that I live in. I live in the true world, in Hashem's world. Nobody can take this away from me. That's the world that I live in. That's the world that I act in. And that's my mission in my life. I don't judge myself by other people, by the world that the other people are presenting. I judge myself by the world that Hashem is presenting. Because my actions are not dependent on the strength derived from other people. My actions are dependent on the strength derived from Hashem. And this is the meaning of a chassid being in total joy, in continuous joy. Regardless of what happens, what superficially happens. It does not, the superficial situation does not in any way describe what is really happening. What really the real truth is. The real truth is, always remains, that this is Hashem's world. And in Hashem's place it's always joyous, it's always bright. And that's the world that I know, that I relate to. This is, to some degree, the conflict, or some of the aspects of the conflict that goes on in our own minds. We have the Yetzer Tov and we have the Yetzer Hara. What is Yetzer Tov and what is Yetzer Hara? Normally we say Yetzer Tov is the guy who tells us to do good, and the Yetzer Hara is the guy who tells us to do bad. Now what kind of guy is it that tells us to do bad? How would anyone dare to come and tell me to do bad? What does it mean he's telling me to do bad? Yetzer means, the word Yetzer, Yetzira means to format.
To what?
To format.
Format.
Format. The Yetzer Tov comes to the person and presents and shows him good, how good and beautiful the world life is. From every aspect, life, Hashem, Yiddishkeit, every breath, he always shows him the greatness and beauty that's going on. Sometimes we'll discuss it more deeply, how it's related to Nefesh Olikis, Nefesh Abad, but this is basically what it is. The Yetzer Hara paints a dire picture. What is a dire picture that he paints? Even if the Yetzer Hara has this capability, that even if all is well, I'm healthy, I have what to eat, I have friends, I have whatever I need, but things are meaningless. What's the purpose? What's the point? Where am I going? The Yetzer Hara comes from an orientation of nothingness. And therefore nothing can fill that void. That's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Tov comes from an orientation of godliness. And therefore nothing can mar that beauty. And this is why the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, and Hasidus discusses it, and we all know that whenever a person begins to think negatively, he should know that it comes from the Yetzer Hara. So the person says, but I'm talking rationally. Here is my situation. What's wrong with this cheshbon? Can you show me where I'm mistaken? Things aren't so good. So why do you say it's the Yetzer Hara? Maybe it's what's called realism. You know, they say, realistically speaking. The answer is that if it is realism, where is godliness? Where is real life? Where is you? Can there be a realism, something real without a creator? In other words, you have painted a complete picture of everything that you see without the base, without the neshama, without the soul that gives it life. Even when the houses are being bombarded from the sky, it doesn't change that this is not a beautiful day. Hashem is still there. And the beauty of godliness, the beauty of the Nefesh Elokis still comes through. This is basically our guiding light in life. Like we spoke the other day, the first thing that a person, a Yid, does when he wakes up, what is the first thing he does? He says, Moide Anya lefonecha melech chai v'kayim. And Chassidus explains, he hasn't even yet oriented himself. Doesn't know where he came from, how come he woke up. Maybe it's the alarm clock that woke him up, not Hashem. He has to think to himself, he has to get reoriented. The first thing he does is says, because the first thing that he wakes up to is the beauty of life. And the beauty of life comes from Hashem. If there are duties and there are pressures and all that, that's on the lower level. These are things which I have to deal with. But the very moment, the very basic phenomenon of waking up and seeing Hashem's world, that has nothing to do with anything. That remains beautiful under all circumstances. Under all circumstances. And this is what we live with. This is why we can sing when we learn. We can get up and dance on the drop of a dime, because the world, as far as we're concerned, is always in a dance. We take off time from dancing to learn a little bit. But even while we're learning, we're also internally joyous and dancing. Because we live in the real world, not in our own skin. L'chaim Evrach.
Another question. Hashem rules everything, and no doubt He chooses to get us to do anything He wants. Like we spoke about a rabbi, like he happened to be in this place in Jerusalem, Poland, and his bomb and his house got destroyed. My question is that Hashem can do anything He wants to do us. But how can I put this in words? How do we? As long as we're learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, is that it? Do we really have choice? Do we how can I put it through? Like how do we know? Like Hashem knows everything, and whatever we need to do, how do we know which step to take? As long as we're studying Torah, nothing really matters. As long as we take the guidance of the Rebbe, have a mishpia, learn Torah, the mitzvahs. As long as we take the guide steps from our leader, like I mean, is that it? Like I mean, do we really need to know what our steps have to be, or our steps they're just going to flow through in the right path? As long as we work on the fundamentals of strengthening our Yiddishkeit, of growing from strength to strength. Is that the main points? Everything else will fall into place. So really trying to know what you want to do is too much for you to know. So you shouldn't really concentrate too much on that. You should concentrate on Torah and mitzvahs more.
And I think I know where you're leading.
Before I was asking, well, what's our point? What's our point? What do I have to do? Answer's there. Learn Torah and the mitzvahs. Listen to the Rebbe. Get guided in this physical world, because the Yetzer Hara is so strong that the clipper just catches on to anything and everything. So if you just try thinking of what you have to do all the time, that's more thinking of yourself, right? And that's thinking of self, because that's
See,
wrong.
no,
That's performance. That's what you have to do.
Let me try to put what you're asking in perspective. Time is a little short. I want to put this to you. Because that in everything that we do, Hashem is our immediate partner. Therefore, as we said before, when I learning is not for an end purpose, that after learning such and such is going to happen. The activity of learning itself is complete. The question is, what is appropriate for me to do at a given time? Right. And that has to be understood based on one's circumstances and other needs and so forth. But to know what is Hashem's ultimate plan for me, that is something which is really folly.
What?
It's folly. It's an error. Yeah, it's foolish because there's no way for you to know. You know, Rabbis Machashovas Blavish V'atzas Hashem Hisokol. There are many thoughts that people have, all kinds of different plans. But what actually factuates, happens, is Hashem's plan. How do we know what is Hashem's plan? That is on the basis of the immediate right thing right now, from this perspective where I am now. This is the best guide as to what is the right thing right now.
This is the right thing.
That's right. That way, see, the point is when I say right now this is the right thing, it sounds like I'm limiting my orientation. But really, I'm not limiting it at all. This is giving the deepest perspective. Because what this says is that if I do what is right now, I am doing everything that needs to be done. Thinking of tomorrow. If your situation is that you have to think of tomorrow, so then this is what you have to do right now. You have to plan for tomorrow. Depends on what your situation is.
What I mean,
The Frierdiker Rebbe had, during the time that his father was the Rebbe, that Rashab was the Rebbe, he was on a mission. He had to see certain minister, and he had the appointment was at a certain time, and because of that, it was Shabbos. He had to be Shabbos in a place in no man's land, and he actually spent some hours of Shabbos in a what do you call it? In a drinking house, in a bar. Everyone went in and sat down in the bar. This is what he has to do. Whatever the Rebbe accomplished there in the bar. We don't know where we are led. The Rebbe didn't plan it. 5 years early, he didn't plan that on that night he's going to spend in the bar. This is an important aspect to understand, because if we plan our things, which usually our plans are very shallow, and then it turns out that we have to make a detour here, a detour there, and every one of these detours, I say, I didn't plan on it. This is insignificant. This is insignificant. I spend most of my time doing insignificant things, bypassing certain obstacles. You don't understand that? No, there's nothing insignificant in a person's life. What he has to do at this moment, that is a significant thing. Because wherever he is, Hashem is with him. And Hashem has nothing insignificant. The question that you ask, of course, if your time is now that you have to plan for tomorrow, then you have to talk and see about tomorrow. If your time is now that you have to plan for today, then you plan for today. But to have a complete overview, like the Rebbe used to say, that the minute the baby is born, there's a plan, is to put in what school he's going to go to in terms of what university, what kind of doctor he's going to be, and how he's going to make his last penny. Mapping out a person's life in the world without regard at all as to what his mission in life is. How he's going to take care of himself, rather how he's going to accomplish and fulfill his mission. You are from Australia. Did you ever plan to be in the United States over here in Seagate learning? So you're now on detour.
Yeah, but there was a time where, like, for example, a month later to plan, and you know I'm going to be here in a month's time. For example, like, I'm talking about definitely long-term planning, but short-term planning, like, you know, like...
Yeah, I'm saying everything that is appropriate, everything that is
something.
appropriate from a given perspective, from a given moment, should be planned. There's no question about it.
Like some things you cannot just do tomorrow I'm going to own a house. You can't. You need to prepare for it.
That's right.
You've got to organize the closet. You've got to organize this. You've got to organize that. You've got to prepare for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but but you're still thinking because you have a real relationship to it. It's not just you're just dreaming of something.
So is that
a real...
Is that a reality or is that an illusion? It's definitely not as real as Torah, right?
No, of course not real terms.
Sense.
It is real in terms of what your duties are, what your obligations are, what your responsibilities are.
Are you adding an extra duty that you don't need?
That you have to know from your mashpia whether this is part of your duty or not, or from Shulchan Aruch, or from your
It
own.
goes back to listening to the Rebbe. That's the Mashpia.
Time for any other questions? Or?
Yeah.
I have a few questions, so I'll narrow it down to one. You said before that the Yetzer Tov, between the difference between the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, that any thoughts of loneliness and emptiness and this feeling of emptiness is from the Yetzer Hara. I'm sure. So what about the feeling that so many Baal Teshuvas had that in the Welt, in the Goyish world, in the things that were wrong, they felt that feeling of emptiness, and that was the initial decision to stop doing what they're doing and to come to to Kedusha. That's from the Yetzer Hara.
Very, very powerful question. And here is what the explanation to this is. No, that wasn't from the Yetzer Hara. There are two types of emptiness that a person feels. The Yetzer Hara comes to a person and says, bottom line, life is empty. Just go and enjoy yourself. There's nothing there to be gotten. The emptiness that a Baal Teshuva felt prior to coming to Torah had a totally different intonation. The emptiness actually had the following format. I feel that there is something real, but I'm not reaching it. I feel the emptiness in contrast to the reality, to the fulfillment that I realize that can be, that there is. In other words, I would not feel the emptiness if I did not feel also that there is a truth. So this emptiness was a reflection of the truth that you felt, not emptiness per se. This is not the same thing at all. Because this emptiness propelled you to go and find the fulfillment. This emptiness did not tell you, okay, forget about everything, just go and drink away your days. That's a different type of emptiness at all, completely.
This emptiness you're talking about, if you're not feeling it, well, this emptiness is going to cause a vacuum, and if you don't fill that emptiness with the right stuff like Torah mitzvahs, it will cause a vacuum for other stuff, whatever. This emptiness, does it create a vacuum to fill? If you don't fill it,
this emptiness is not a vacuum. This emptiness is a reaction. This emptiness is saying, I sense that there is a certain depth and meaning, and everything that I'm touching is not hitting it. I feel Not that I feel emptiness in life. I know, like on the contrary, I feel great meaning in life. But the things that I'm touching, I feel are empty. The emptiness I feel is not the emptiness in myself. The emptiness in the things that I'm touching. They are empty. There has to be something else to it. It's not a personal emptiness. On the contrary, personally, I feel that there is greatness, and that's what's propelling me to look for it. Because I perceive that there is real thing. There's reality. Ya da 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 da, hey, ya da da ya da da da, ya da da ya da da, hey, ya da 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 da, hey, ya ya ya, da 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 ya da, hey, ya ya ya, ya ya da, ya ya mama, ya da da da, ya ya ya.